300-pound dudes tackling you on a frozen field, the last thing you want to do is stay out there. Believe me, the Rams players were thinking about the jacuzzi at their team hotel, that they find it laughable, but more laughable if they totally disregard the trade whatsoever. This guy has transformed the balance of power in the Eastern Conference. And you could argue the entire defense is going to be absolutely ferocious next year. But if your number one priority is to win a Super Bowl, then J.J. Watt is making a grave mistake. To ride this Chad Henne experiment for an entire game, I might need a whole bottle of Hennessy just to get through that. Guy who's won 8 division titles, who's made 5 AFC championship appearances, who's reached the Super Bowl 3 times and has won 2 Super Bowls for this organization. Aaron Rodgers has only won 1 Super Bowl with Green Bay. Drew Brees has only won 1 Super Bowl with New Orleans. There's only 13 quarterbacks in NFL history that have won multiple Super Bowls, and Big Ben is one of those individuals.
Good morning and welcome to Morning Joe right here on J&J Media Network, Facebook Live, Twitter, and on YouTube. I'm Jonah Malcolm with you every single Monday and Wednesday morning, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 to 11 Central, and 8 to 9 a.m. Pacific. Glad you could join me on this Wednesday morning. As you can see, I am currently moved into a different studio, so still trying to mix and match different looks, getting this whole thing set up, but appreciate you staying tuned. It's going to continue to get better and better, so just give me time. But I have to start with one of the stories that has been reverberating throughout the entire world, throughout the entire sports landscape. It occurred late last night. The icon, the legendary voice of the Dodgers and broadcaster Vin Scully passed away last night at the age of 94. Now, obviously, this comes on the heels of the late, great NBA player Bill Russell passing away earlier in the week as well. So we've lost 2 incredibly impactful individuals in the sports community over the last 2 years. But this is a guy in Vin Scully who was a part of the Dodgers organization for 67 years. He's in the baseball. He's been enshrined in the Baseball Hall of Fame. He has already won a Lifetime Achievement Award. This is someone who is extremely decorated, and obviously he's called much more than just baseball. He's called golf, he's called NFL, the incredible catch at Candlestick Park between the Cowboys and the 49ers. But when we really think about Vin Scully, we think about him in baseball terms, and obviously he's been dubbed the voice of baseball. He was the longest tenured broadcaster for any single team ever. 67 years with Los Angeles, got the job at age 22. But for me, Vin Scully has meant so much more. And a lot of broadcasters always talk about this, and they can all recall different memories and moments. But it hits a lot harder for me because I'm a broadcaster and because I'm from Los Angeles. And anytime you talk to any broadcaster, anytime you're even getting into this industry, whenever you discuss the gold standard, Vin Scully his name always comes up. His name is almost a ubiquitous sports axiom because he is the model of consistency. He is the gold standard. That is the guy that you try to replicate. That's the one individual who seems to have nailed every single moment in every single situation. I think what's amazing about the way that Vin Scully did it was he was essentially a sports poet laureate. The guy described everything with incredible vividness, imagery, creativity, yet he spoke with such brevity, never superfluous. He maximized every single word. He enhanced the level of broadcasts with his levels of description. And he was extremely colorful, yet beautifully simplistic. And that's such a rare quality to have for a broadcaster. And he captured fans' imagination. What's amazing is that he managed to transcend broadcasting, not only for Dodgers fans, because he was a broadcasting pioneer, but he transcended fans so much that even Dodgers fans who were attending a Dodger game at Dodger Stadium would hold transistor radios up to their ears at the stadium to listen to his radio call. That's the ultimate compliment. He speaks so beautifully and so elegantly and with a certain regalness that even individuals at the stadium wanted to listen to the way that he's trying to portray and capture the moments to audiences abroad. And I think what's so impressive was not just, again, the style of broadcasting, but his baseball acumen, the knowledge, the trove of stories that he was able to weave into broadcast seamlessly. He's one of those few broadcasters where anytime he tells a story, it's almost like the game rewards him and allows him, bought him time perfectly every single situation to complete the story. And if you talk to broadcasters, that's one of the most difficult things, is to integrate stories into broadcasts. And he always seemed to have impeccable timing. Always, I think one of the biggest compliments you can pay him is he always found the perfect words for the perfect moment. And obviously he's meant so much to sports, but he's meant so much to society, because when you think about his voice, and obviously his voice reverberates much, much beyond Dodger Stadium to the entire world, you think about a voice of comfort, of unity, of stability. Anytime in crisis on a societal level, people wanted to hear Vin Scully. They wanted to hear his soothing and his sweet voice, because it reminded them of the past time. And again, just the way that he described situations were so compelling, so entertaining and intriguing, yet just perfectly stated. And I think for me, obviously, I wasn't born when he was at the peak of his broadcasting career, but even I love listening back to the way that he described different moments. I loved recalling the famous Kirk Gibson pinch hit home run in the ninth inning in the 1988 World Series against the Oakland A's on a hobbled foot. I think it was apropos that when Hank Aaron passed Babe Ruth for the most home runs for 715. Funny enough, the Braves were playing the Dodgers, and Vin Scully got to make that call, complimenting Hank Aaron, how even in the Deep South, a black man in Hank Aaron was receiving a standing ovation, and how that was a marvelous moment for baseball. He captured that moment. And I think when we look back on Vin Scully's life, obviously, if you were close to him, you know how close he was to his family, how much he loved his family, but how much he just cared and how much he was invested in the craft and in capturing audiences and doing this for the fans. And he loved seeing the joy and the reactions that fans were left with. And he really left an indelible mark on the sport of baseball, on broadcasting. And last night, another piece of LA. We lost a piece of LA's soul last night, and the world lost an incredible icon. So rest in peace, Vin Scully. Not only were you a tremendous, tremendous broadcaster, but an even better individual. So with that, I want to now transition to a different topic in baseball. Juan Soto, the 23-year-old superstar that formerly was with the Washington Nationals, has officially been traded to the San Diego Padres. It was made official yesterday morning. There was a lot of hoopla, a lot of speculation surrounding his ultimate destination? Would it be with San Diego? Would it be with the Dodgers? Would it be with the Cardinals? And it was the Padres that pulled ahead, giving away a haul to acquire this pre-prime superstar. That's who Juan Soto is. This is a guy who's 23 years old, just turned down a 15-year, $440 million offer from the Washington Nationals. But he's in the middle of his 5th MLB season. For his career, he's batting .291, 119 home runs, is already a World Series champion. He led the Nationals in 2019 to the World Series title. He has already been named a 2-time All-Star. He's a perennial MVP. He was he won the batting title. He just won the home run derby this past year. So this is a major, major coup in acquisition for the San Diego Padres. This is a guy who in his postseason, the only lone postseason appearance he's had in 2019, batting .271, 5 home runs in 17 games. His early career stats are already matching those of Hall of Famers. So this is the trajectory that he's on. This kid out of the Dominican Republic, of course, Fernando Tatis Jr., also from the Dominican Republic. So those two have a really good relationship. He's someone who, not to mention, is the only active MLB player right now that has accumulated more walks than strikeouts in his career, which is saying something about his patience in the batter's box. And that's what I love about, by the way, Juan Soto, the moxie, the confidence, the swagger in the batter's box. He just will infuse so much additional confidence to this Padres team. And what's amazing about San Diego is here we all thought when Fernando Tatis Jr. broke his left wrist earlier in the year that this team was gone in the water. They might not be able to recover, and here they are, 60-46. They're second in the NL West, just behind the Dodgers. They've got the 5th best record in the National League, the 7th best record in baseball overall, and now you're acquiring Juan Soto, this once-in-a-generational type of and caliber of player on your roster, with the possibility of retaining him for potentially the next 15 years if they can sign him to a long-term contract. But at the bare minimum, you've got him for 3 legitimate runs at a World Series title. And the Padres, of course, are one of 6 MLB teams that have never won the World Series. They've won the NL pennant twice, 1984, 1998, but they lost both times in the World Series. And they're trying to, again, return to that position. And here you bring in a guy who wears his emotions on his sleeve. He's got a certain bravado in the batter's box. He's a grinder. And this is an amazing, amazing pickup at the trade deadline. And this is the one thing that we know has become a trend in sports. And it's becoming almost irrefutable and indisputable, which is the teams with intrepid owners, the teams with ownership groups that are willing to spend money and be aggressive have typically been the teams and the franchises that have won world titles, especially in recent years. You look at the Golden State Warriors, just won the NBA title. They've got the highest payroll in the NBA, the highest luxury tax. We just saw the Rams. They made big splashes. They traded for Matthew Stafford last year. They won the Super Bowl. The Dodgers have maintained perennial status as one of the best teams in baseball. That's the reason they've dominated the NL West pretty much the last decade, is because of their ownership group, because of Andrew Freeman, because the team was willing to spend and be bold and go out and get players. Now, obviously, in the Dodgers' case, they somehow seemingly have unlimited tranches of money to dispose and just dole out that most teams don't have the luxury of having. But regardless, the Padres understood this is not just simply about competing for a World Series title. This is about competing with the Dodgers within your own division. This is about competing with the San Francisco Giants, who have won 2 World Series in the previous decade. This is about competing with the Yankees, who've been acquiring all kinds of talent and have been knocking on the door the last several years. This is about competing with the Astros. So when we think about what the Padres are trying to accomplish right now, and especially the teams that they're going up against, remember the Dodgers have been notorious for acquiring major pieces at the trade deadline. Just think back to Yu Darvish a couple of years ago, Manny Machado a couple of years ago, Trey Turner and Max Scherzer last year. Now, only one of those times it panned out, but several of those years they reached the World Series. They won the pennant. So the Padres are becoming bolder, and credit their ownership group for trying to deliver on their promise to the city to deliver a World Series title. The fans have bought in. The Padres have had one of the top 5 attendance rates in all of Major League Baseball. They have an incredible team. And now you add Juan Soto to a lineup that's featuring Fernando Tatis Jr., who's going to be returning from that broken wrist in 1 to 2 weeks. Manny Machado. This is a really, really stacked team. Not to mention, they acquired Josh Bell as well from the Nationals, who's having a career year. Luke Voit, who's having a good season. They traded a week prior for Josh Hader, an elite closer from the Brewers, one of the best pitchers in baseball. So this team is doing a lot. Brandon Drury, they've been making a lot of really good trades, especially recently. But you add the caliber player of Juan Soto, those guys just don't grow on baseball trees. They just don't. And when you got an opportunity to acquire one, you have to go out. You have to go out and do it. And this team is, to win, you have to go deep sea fishing. And they just caught a big king tuna. That's what they did. And I love this move for the Padres. They've always been knocking on the door. They seem to have been positioning themselves over the last several years to make a big splash and to make a big run. And Juan Soto may just be the piece to do it. An incredible, incredible acquisition for them. You do that 10 out of 10 times. And I'm curious to see how this plays out and how this pays off, because this is perhaps the biggest acquisition in the San Diego Padres history. All right, I'm going to take a quick break. Coming up in the NFL, major news with the Miami Dolphins and some major tampering allegations that's coming up. I'll be right back. And welcome back to Morning Joe right here on JJ Media Network, Facebook Live, Twitter, and on YouTube. So I want to transition to the NFL. So a major story broke yesterday. There have been a lot of rumblings. It had been brewing, it appears, for several months on end. But finally, it's been made official. The Miami Dolphins are officially going to lose their 2023 first-round pick, 2024 third-round pick. Their owner, Stephen Ross, has been fined $1.5 million and suspended for the first 6 games of the season, will be prohibited from attending any NFL meetings or even team meetings indefinitely, all because of unprecedented, in the words of Commissioner Roger Goodell, unprecedented, both in scope and severity, unprecedented tampering allegations with Tom Brady and Sean Payton. So let's provide some context. All of this, of course, was preceded by the former Miami Dolphins head coach Brian Flores filing a class action lawsuit against not only the NFL, but against the Denver Broncos and the New York Giants for conducting sham interviews just to fulfill the Rooney Rule requirement, and also against the Miami Dolphins for incentivizing losing and trying to aid and abet the Miami Dolphins' efforts to improperly recruit Tom Brady. Brian Flores was disappointed with the outcome, but perhaps it corroborates all of his claims and his allegations, because what happened is this is one of the most extensive tampering allegations in NFL history. There are two components to this. The first component is the Stephen Ross and Tom Brady component. Now, everyone knows that they have the connection from Michigan. And essentially, Stephen Ross was offering Tom Brady the same type of quid pro quo deal that the Washington Wizards had made to Michael Jordan. That was the reason Michael Jordan came out of retirement the second time and played with the Washington Wizards, was he had a handshake, wink, wink agreement that if he goes to play for the Washington Wizards, he would become a minority owner of the Washington Wizards, or at least be given the opportunity to purchase a minority ownership stake in the Washington Wizards. And Tom Brady's situation with the Dolphins is akin to MJ's situation with the Wizards. The understanding was that Tom Brady would play with the Miami Dolphins, and in exchange, Stephen Ross would offer him minority stake or a limited partnership with the Miami Dolphins. So that's one component to it. And within that, a subset of that first component, they've been improperly recruiting Tom Brady since 2019. So this means while he was both on the Patriots and the Buccaneers, so while he was part of the Patriots, to add insult to injury, Tom Brady was prepared to join the Dolphins and go up against Bill Belichick and the Patriots in the AFC East twice a year. The AFC East at least 6 times a year, but the Patriots twice a year. So that's one major aspect and one major element to this story. The second component is the Sean Payton component. And this is what's really interesting, because here's the egregious part. With Sean Payton, the Dolphins contacted Sean Payton's agent in January of 2022, this past January. So right after he resigned, because he resigned on the 25th, either on the 22nd, and then they contacted him on the 25th, or the other way around. They contacted him on the 22nd, and he resigned on the 25th. But regardless, basically what that means is that Sean Payton was prepared to essentially illegally terminate his contract with the Saints, retire, then unretire, and become the Miami Dolphins head coach after they've acquired Tom Brady, and have those two work together for the last couple of years. So there's so many improper activities going on and nefarious things going on with the Miami Dolphins behind the scenes throughout several years. Again, this is dating back to 2019, trying to set them up to play, to be a part of their franchise together for this season. So the one thing that I think this does do is this helps elucidate and this helps paint a fuller, more clearer picture as to what's been going on. And now this explains so many of the actions of Tom Brady, why all of a sudden he retires, and then come to find out all this negative attention is cast on the Miami Dolphins. So he unretires, but forces Bruce Arians to be pulled from his position as head coach, and he has to move up to a management position. And then all this information comes pouring out that, in fact, Tom Brady prematurely retired. He didn't want to retire. He just had plans to go to the Miami Dolphins. So this is a very interesting story, because obviously both Brady and Payton were under contract when they were reached out to. But we're just seeing all the dominoes, and again, more of the puzzle pieces are starting to complete this entire picture. And the one thing that if you're the Dolphins, you have to be really concerned about is all the credibility with their organization has basically been flushed down the toilet, because the way that they've appeared to operate unethically and with a lack of integrity is perhaps the greatest disappointment that you can have in a professional organization, because those relationships with the NFL, with the commissioners, with teams, with players, it's all built on trust. And if there's no lack of trust, if there's a lack of transparency, if you are operating unethically, not just immorally, but also unethically, well, what does it say about your franchise? And the fact that Stephen Ross has actually had the audacity to question the disciplinary actions handed down by the NFL shows a lot of gall on his part, because what is there really to question? You stuck your hand in the cookie jar and you got caught. And really, in this case, you stuck your whole body in the cookie jar and it was open for all to see. This has been going on. This has been going on since 2019, 3 seasons. So I think it also makes you question perhaps how punitive the NFL should have been against the Miami Dolphins. You could argue it should have been even more punitive than what they assigned, just given, again, the duration of how long these activities have been going on for. So swirling around the Miami Dolphins right now is all kinds of negative attention. They haven't completely closed the case on Brian Flores' own lawsuit against the Miami Dolphins, but this is a major, major wrinkle in the story, and more could come of this. More could come of this, but we argue about tampering in the NBA for maybe a summer prematurely. This is 3 summers in the making on the part of the Miami Dolphins. Wow. All right, final topic, my Malkins moments. I have some great Malkins moments for you. First, of course, had to start with just paying tribute and our respects and saluting the great Vin Scully. Was the longest tenured broadcaster for any single team. He was with the Dodgers for 67 years, inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame, won the Lifetime Achievement Award, Presidential Medal of Freedom from Barack Obama. He's been such an influential figure in the lives of so many people, not just sports fans, but individuals in general. And what an illustrious career, what an incredible man. And it was a sad day yesterday in Los Angeles, and it will be to see him go. But rest in peace to Vin Scully. Along with that, shout out to the Pittsburgh Steelers kicker, Chris Boswell. The 7-year man just inked a 4-year, $20 million contract to stay with the Steelers for the next 4 seasons. This is a guy who, for his career, has been 88% field goal kicker. In fact, over the last 3 seasons, he's been 90+% on his field goal kicks. And as we've seen in the playoffs time and time again, the kickers are extremely valuable. It's almost one of those positions where it's more profound when you see that you don't have a good kicker versus if you have a great kicker, the team operates smoothly. You don't think about it, but it will be a glaring hole if you don't have a good one. And if this is the type of money he's able to command, imagine what Evan McPherson, the rookie for the Cincinnati Bengals, if he continues along this trajectory, might be able to command. So major shout out to Chris Boswell. That's this contract, by the way, it ties Justin Tucker as the highest paid kicker in NFL history with this contract. He becomes tied with Justin Tucker for the highest paid field goal kicker in NFL history. So shout out to Chris Boswell. Finally, the Formula One F1 star Lewis Hamilton is set to join the Denver Broncos ownership group. the incredible driver, a 7-time Formula One winner. Obviously adds a little bit of diversity to this ownership group. In fact, he's not only tied with Michael Schumacher, for 7 F1 titles, but the 37-year-old actually holds the Formula One record for race wins, 103 race wins. He is joining former U.S. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, who just became an investor last month. Of course, this is all under Rob Walton, who's the Walmart heir and the leading face of this new Denver Broncos ownership group, who purchased the team for $4.65 billion, which, of course, the sale price was a record for a North American sports franchise. So shout out to Lewis Hamilton. Glad he could get in on the sweepstakes, and I think that the Broncos' value is only going to continue to skyrocket. So that's all the time that I got for today. Thank you so much for joining me right here on Morning Joe every single Monday and Wednesday morning, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 to 11 Central, and 8 to 9 a.m. Pacific. Make sure to subscribe to my YouTube page, Morning Joe, J-O with Jonah Malkin on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter at Jonah_Malkin or at morning_Joe_JMalk97 on Instagram and Jonah Malkin on TikTok. Thanks so much. And as always, have a lovely rest of your morning.